Do these Mylar survival tarps actually make a difference? Let's start the fire and let's put it to the test. If you don't know what a survival tarp is one of these tarps that have this Mylar reflective side. They're not a space blanket. They actually have a tarp material. The idea is that they're going to radiate more heat back on you. So let's see if it actually works. All right, so what I'm doing today, I have two different shelters set up at the exact same distance from our fire. We have this shelter here, the thermometer sitting on a folded up sleeping pad, and it's reading 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Look at me read it correctly this time. Look at me go. But we have just a plain Jane normal tarp. This is a 8x8 set up, lean-to. The wind's blowing that way, so neither shelter is really getting a benefit. Over here we have the survival tarp. This is the Mylar reflective side, has the same thermometer, different type of sleeping pad, fold up underneath it, and it's reading 42 degrees Fahrenheit. So what we're going to do is we're going to let the fire burn. I'm going to be off to the side so I'm not in the way, giving either shelter a benefit here. We're going to sit back, enjoy the fire, make some coffee, and then see what happens in these shelters in the next couple hours. Put this on the shelf, burn my mouth. Now I got it cooled off, I can drink it. All right, the reason why I want to do this experiment, because there's no doubt in my mind that this reflective tarp is going to be warmer than this regular tarp over here. But my point is are the pros and cons going to be enough? Is this going to make enough of a difference for me to want to carry that tarp as opposed to a regular tarp? This tarp's 5x7. I'm 6 foot tall, so there's not a lot of room for me to be in there, especially with gear or anything like that. It's kind of tight quarters. Now, in a survival situation, I don't need, a luxury penthouse to stay in. This will for sure keep me warm. I could lower it down just so far enough where I could just curl up underneath it near a fire and we'd be good. But as an everyday carry, are they really worth it? That's why I want to test this, because this tarp over here is 8x8, so it has more room for me, my gear, maybe a kid or whatever, where this one's just kind of lacking. Now, the other part of this is also the weight. Now, if you're not carrying it, then it doesn't really matter if it's sitting in your truck. But this tarp over here weighs 1.5 pounds, where this tarp over here, which is bigger, like I said, weighs about 0.7 pounds. So it's literally half the weight, and it's more of a footprint. So we're just going to see what happens. That's why I brought this thermometer gun. I'm going to shoot the back of each one. They're both really close distances away from the fire, so we're going to see if there's a big change here. All right, so our first check, this thing is at 72 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a lot. We started out at 40, if you remember. Let's just check and see if there's anything bouncing off. I'm trying to stay out of the fire's way here. We're over here just at the regular tarp, and it is right at 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's a 20-degree difference between these two. I'm going to see what this reading is on the tarp, and then we're going to burn for another hour. Maybe manipulate the fire a little bit more. Maybe it's, just burning one side or the other. You know how fires tend to be. Here's some fresh deer beds near where I decided to do my experiment. There's another one right over here where they hunker down in the cold. All right, we're coming up on our 2-hour check, and the temperature is still, it's climbed just a little bit. It's around 74 degrees. And bouncing off of this here, this is reading 75 degrees bouncing off this Mylar tarp. So, all right, at the other shelter here, we've pretty much stayed the same. This is 50 degrees here, and our tarp is 71 degrees up here. That's how much heat's coming off the fire. The results are in. The Mylar survival tarp significantly is better than your regular tarp. And as you can see that the temperatures off the reflective heat coming from the fire, the tarps are pretty much the same temperature. But the difference is this tarp is letting the heat pass through while that tarp is reflecting that heat back down. There's a 20-degree difference between these tarps, and that's significant. 20 degrees is a significant difference between these two tarps, especially if we're staying out here all night and the lows are going to be in the 30s or so. 70 degrees sounds a lot better than 50 degrees, and that kind of cuts down on the amount of kind of gear that we have to carry. So like I said before, survival tarp definitely has a place in your kit. I would like it if I could find an 8x8. If you know of an 8x8 around, put it in the comments, please. Send me a link. I'd like to check that out. That might be something I add to my kit, just because I like a bigger tarp. This 5x7 will work just fine for one person. Like I said, you can crawl up underneath it, but if you have more than you, it's going to be really tight quarters. You better really like the other person that you're hanging out with, okay? If you think of something that I could have done different, if you think of something else that you'd like to see tested, hey, put it down in the comments. Visit arkansassurvival.com, see our upcoming courses, and as always, thanks for watching.